get the cops caught by the neighbors.
What is up, Motorsports family? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Antonio Motorsports and I own a 2017 BMW 340i. In today's video, I will be installing a charge pipe on the 340i. I've been meaning to get a charge pipe for a while now, but just hadn't gotten around to it. Huge shout out to Kies Motorsports. I ended up contacting them and they sent me out a Kies Motorsports charge pipe. So I am super grateful for that. If you guys would like a Kies Motorsports charge pipe, you guys can go to kiesmotorsports.com. I will leave a link in the description below. They also sent me some swag. They sent me a Kies Motorsports beanie, as well as a flag to hang up. I'll probably end up hanging that up soon. I'm sure most of you guys that watch my channel watch Kies Motorsports. Brian from Kies Motorsports is pretty much the BMW GOAT, so it's just nice to get the chance to work with him. So once again, thank you Kies Motorsports, I really do appreciate it. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with BMW engines, in most BMWs, the stock charge pipe is actually plastic. So a lot of them tend to fail. When you're adding power to your BMW, you're gonna want to upgrade the charge pipe. The stock charge pipes are very fragile. They tend to crack very easily, even on stock BMWs that don't have tunes. But installing the aluminum charge pipe from Kies Motorsports, it's just good peace of mind knowing that you don't have to worry about your charge pipe blowing off of the throttle body at any given moment. If your stock charge pipe does fail, it will put your BMW in limp mode, if not leave you stranded somewhere. So this is a good mod to do even if you don't plan on adding power to your car. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and just like that, let's go check out what comes with the charge pipe. So real quick, I just wanted to go over everything that the charge pipe came with. So obviously you have the lower portion to the charge pipe. You have the upper portion that's going to connect to the throttle body. It came with this coupler, as well as the clamps that you'll need for the coupler to connect the two pieces. Came with these 3 bolts. I'm pretty sure these are the ones that are going to be used to bolt the top portion to the throttle body, so we won't be using the OEM ones. And it also came with a couple of zip ties. Not 100% sure if we're going to need these yet, but it's always good to have some extra zip ties laying around. I did want to take a quick second just to show you guys the welds. All the welds are super clean. Very nice welds on all the parts. And I love how it came in the gloss black finish as compared to the matte black finish. I think it's gonna look really good in the engine bay. So first things first, just to give yourself some more room to work, you're gonna want to remove your engine cover. Remove that. And it's just held in by grommets, so just pull straight up and it should come off. Alright, so now that the engine cover is off, we can go ahead and move on. So for this install, in order to take off your charge pipe, you are going to want to remove your airbox if you have, a stock airbox. If not, like in my case, I have a CTS turbo intake. So I'm going to have to remove the intake before I can completely remove the charge pipe. So if you guys have not upgraded your intake and you have your stock intake still, I will go ahead and leave a link to a video where you can check out how to take out the stock airbox. But with that being said, I am going to start with taking out this intake. So what you're going to want to do is remove your MAF sensor. I always find it easiest to use a flathead screwdriver for these sensors. So I'm just going to go ahead and clip that up just like that. Once it's up, you're going to press in and then shimmy it off. So now that the sensor is removed, at this point, I don't know if you guys can see, but down here, you'll see that there is a clamp at the top of this coupler. And then there's one at the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and loosen the one at the bottom so that this whole upper portion can just come off in one piece. Once you get your intake removed, just stuff like a shop rag or a microfiber in the opening so that way nothing falls down there. You don't want anything falling in your turbo inlet. Next, what you're gonna wanna do is this vacuum line you're gonna wanna remove. So for the top portion, it's one of those ones where you just pinch on the top and bottom and then pull right off. Oh, it looks like mine's broken. That's nice. Once you remove this one up top, there is another connection down here that you have to remove. I don't know how well you guys can see, but it's actually right here. It's just like this clip right here. So you're just gonna pull up on it and then push down and pull it out. and when I remove it, I'll go ahead and show you guys. That's what the clip should look like. Once you have those out, you're going to want to remove the turbo inlet. So in order to do that, I don't know if you guys can see back there, there is actually a C-clamp right there. So you're going to want to remove that in order to get that portion off of the turbo. So I went ahead and removed it right there. As you guys can see, your best bet is probably going to be to use a pick tool. What I ended up doing is just kind of getting this pick tool right underneath in between the clip and the plastic and kind of just prying up. So once it's loose enough like that, you can go ahead and grab it out. Make sure not to drop it, but that's what it should look like. So before you can take out the whole turbo inlet, you're going to need to undo this vacuum seal right here, pretty much the same as this one up top. It's going to be very hard to show you guys on camera, but you're pretty much just going to pinch, pull, and then the inlet should just come right out. Once the vacuum line is disconnected, this whole inlet should just come on out. Once you get it out, this is what it should look like. Once again, the connections you're trying to disconnect is this one right here, which is similar to these ones where you just pop up the clip, pull it out, as well as this side, which is similar as this one. Not gonna lie, the vacuum seals that you have to pinch and pull off are extremely hard to do. It did take me a while to get this one off, especially since it's all the way down there and not the easiest to access, but just be patient with it and you'll get it off. So now that the turbo inlet is out, you guys can see now we have access to our charge pipe. So on the bottom portion, you'll see this black plastic piece. That's actually a clamp that you no longer need once you snap it off of your old charge pipe. So it doesn't really matter if you break that one. I'm pretty sure it doesn't come off unless you break it. So just go ahead and try to pry that off with a flathead screwdriver is probably what I'm going to use. And then once you pry off the plastic piece, it does also have a C-clamp just like the turbo inlet one did. So go ahead and use your pick tool to get underneath that and get the C-clamp off. This is the black plastic clip that's on the bottom of the charge pipe. So now that you can see that it's off, the C-clamp is fully exposed. So let's get it off. C-clamp is off. Before we remove the entire charge pipe, obviously you have to disconnect everything from the top portion. So this sensor right here you're going to want to remove, as well as this one. I'm going to do that by using just a flathead, getting this in here, popping that up, and then as well as this one, same thing, get that in there, pop it up. Once they're both up, that one should just come right off. And this one, let me switch my good hand, it should come right off as well. So once these connections are disconnected, you're going to want to unscrew all three of these screws. There's also one down here, it's kind of hard to see, but those are all T30s. Alright, once all three screws are removed from the throttle body and you make sure that everything else is disconnected, the charge pipe should just come right on out. Left side, down here. There's a little portion down here that there's a clamp connected to a hose. You can just disconnect that. Make sure you're being careful with all the connections. It could take a while, so just be patient. Shimmy it out. Like I said, you don't want to damage anything. But there it is, your old charge pipe. Alright, so now what we're going to want to do is transfer the old hardware to the new charge pipe. So that being said, we are going to remove these sensors. So for this connection, it's going to be a T20, and then this connection right here, you can actually just unscrew by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. So once that's unscrewed, go ahead and take this out, and then this connection will go into your new one. As mentioned previously in the video, do not use the old screws. You're going to want to use the screws and bolts provided. So with that being said, this one's going to be an Allen key size 5. So just gonna go ahead and get that unscrewed. Once that's unscrewed, we're just going to replace the sensor as it was on the old one. Make sure everything's lined up, and then you're gonna go ahead and screw that in as well. And you don't have to tighten it too crazy, just make sure it's nice and snug, and you should be good. As far as the other sensor, like I said, just go ahead and unscrew it by hand and screw it into the new one. And you do want to make sure that when you're doing these, you're not touching the inside of the sensors, because you don't want to mess up anything. Same with that one. Make sure it's nice and snug, and then you have transferred your sensors. So now I'm going to be working with the bottom portion charge pipe. So on this one, this is the part that's going to connect to the very bottom where the turbo inlet is. So the coupler is going to go on this side. With that being said, as you can see on the coupler, there's a smaller side as well as a wider side. The smaller side is going to connect to this side right here. So before you put the coupler on this side, you want to make sure that this clamp is on here as well. So now we can go ahead and reinstall the bottom portion. So I am going to also place this big clamp on this portion of the coupler as well. So that way, once we reinstall it and I put the upper portion of the charge pipe in here, we can just go ahead and tighten it down without having to take it apart and then try to put this clamp in there later. So one more time, just to give you guys a visual, the bottom one is where you're going to connect the charge pipe. This top portion is where the turbo inlet connects. All right, so installing this bottom portion, as you can see, the clamp is already pre-installed, so pretty much you can just fit it on the opening and it should click into place. And you should hear an audible click like you just heard, and that means it is in place. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this upper clamp on this coupler. Just make it nice and snug so it doesn't go anywhere, but I'm not gonna fully tighten it. So once you have this nice and snug, we're gonna fit the top portion onto the other side of the coupler. Before you do that, once again, make sure you're putting the clamp on the coupler before. So once you get the top portion in the coupler, what you wanna do is just line up this portion where the throttle body is, and just make sure that everything fits properly before you screw it in. I did have to play with this coupler, this middle portion, just to make sure that up here it would fit correctly. So now that everything looks pretty good and fits correctly, I'm gonna go ahead and screw in this top portion so I no longer have to hold it. All right, so I went ahead and placed the bolts into the top portion of the charge pipe and into the throttle body. So very important, make sure, like I said before, that it is going on straight to the throttle body. You don't want it leaning one way or the other because you don't want any leaks here. Now I can go ahead and tighten the clamps here in the middle where the coupler is. All right, so once you go ahead and tighten up everything in the middle, just make sure everything's nice and snug at the top as well as in the bottom. You want to make sure that that clamp is engaged down there. Once you've made sure that everything is nice and snug, go ahead and put everything back in reverse order. So your turbo inlet will go next, and then after you get your turbo inlet and connect the proper lines, you will reinstall your intake. So let me go ahead and do all that off camera, and then I will show you guys the finished product. And for the finishing touch, I think it looks really good. Like I said before, I love the gloss black. And with the intake, engine bay is starting to come together. But just like that, that wraps up today's install. If you guys have any questions on the install or anything BMW related, you can always hit me up on my Instagram at Matoire. And once again, huge shout out to Kies Motorsports for sending out this charge pipe. I really do appreciate it, and I look forward to working with you guys more in the future. And once again, if you guys are looking to pick up one of these charge pipes for your F30, I will leave a link in the description below of where you can get one. And as always guys, remember your goals and don't give up till you reach them. Peace.
Excited just to see me, wish I felt the same way. Later on she'll probably get a name change. People changing on me like they gain weight. I wish that I